So you mentioned having obviously done the transition from working in the North American market to working in Europe. What are the biggest differences, or even kind of some of the parallels that you see, but definitely those differences in terms of our approach to sustainability and ESG in those two very distinct markets?
Hmm. So in back in Canada, when I was doing change and sustainability, I was using the heart as a way to motivate. And that might be, future generation and, doing the right thing for our planet and people. And obviously linking the business case was also a driver in terms of finding financial incentives and those remain valid for both the UK and Canada. But the main difference that I saw with working in the UK was in terms of legislation
Mm.
and the legislation driving the change. Here in the UK, we have the TCFD, the Task Force for Climate Financial Disclosure, which means that starting in April 2023, large businesses will need to report on carbon footprint with their financial disclosure.
Mm.
And there's a different set of recommendations for those businesses, but the plan is to start with large businesses, but the whole economy will will be impacted by this. So companies can no longer um, hide behind commitments on net zero or carbon reduction. This will now be linked to their audited financial disclosures. And the other regulation is called MEES. The it's around energy efficiency, and what that means for landlords is that again in this year in April 2023, any building that is below a E level of performance. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So anything that is F and G, you will not be required, you will not be allowed to um, um, gain income from those
Mm.
properties.
Hmm.
Um, and the target is, and this is now in in uh, in in a consultation, and there's a white paper by the government, but the idea is that by 2030 you won't be able to, the same requirement will apply for up to B level.
Wow.
So by 2023, if your buildings are not a minimum of B, you will not be able to generate income and rental income from those properties. um, so this is a huge incentive in terms of getting our buildings and having the landlord responsible for improving the efficiency and getting the right certificate to be able to let the rent the asset. And then finally, the Climate Act, the UK has adopted 2050 as its net zero target, and this means that businesses will need to also be net zero by 2050 or sooner. And on for us as a real estate business, what that means is the potential threat for assets becoming stranded. And what I mean
Mm.
by that is there's a cost to get to net zero for a building to reach um, climate targets. And um, right now, when you're buying or selling a building, the energy efficiency is not quantified in the value of the building. But what we're now anticipating with this Climate Act is this transitional risk where buildings will have a brown discount, this kind of decrease in value if the investment required is larger than than the asset value itself.
Hmm.
So what that means is we need to work on retrofitting our buildings and future proofing them so that the value is maintained um, across time, because we're holding assets for a long period of time, and we're seeing how um, the energy efficiency is now starting to be included in purchase decision making, and that's
Hmm.
only going to be fueled as time progresses, where companies realize this risk of devaluation of assets if the building is not performing as it should be, because then the investment for the person buying it will be too high, where they'll need to make that investment to meet the legislation. In London, another planning requirement is now BREEAM certification. So it's again, you can't build a new building if you're not BREEAM, and what that means is, some people might say it's a tick box exercise, but it really does make you look at your energy efficiency, your biodiversity impact, your waste management, your transport, your impact on the community, and going through the BREEAM process just transforms the way you're developing buildings, and is also an opportunity to look at your impact and review opportunities that you might have of, realizing you're in a drought area, or a flood area, and implementing a blue roof that captures rainwater,
Hmm.
and those conversations happening, and those opportunities being explored fully, and generating some really good innovation and some transformation in how we build new buildings. There's also now an operational carbon tax. So every building has to go through an analysis of its carbon footprint at design and pay a tax equivalent to £90 per ton, which is huge.
Hmm.
And so this is driving efficiencies, because instead of paying £1 million in carbon tax to the council, well, you're going to put that into energy efficiency measures and improve the building value, improve its performance, and it's kind of a win-win all around. So these legislative and financial requirements are driving how we build and manage our assets.